So if you know this channel, you know that I'm a Detroit Pistons fan and I've been talking about Pistons content for a while. And I've kind of stepped back away from that because at the end of the season, I kind of want to do one bigger video about the Pistons instead of all these smaller videos about the Pistons. So I've been trying to use this time. I've had some time away to just like watch the NBA and enjoy the NBA, try to enjoy the NBA a little bit more in terms of not trying to watch it as a content creator, but just watch it as a fan. And it's been fun for the last like month or so. I've enjoyed it. What I haven't enjoyed is how people have been talking about the NBA. And I gotta say, what Shaq did was just like the epitome of everything wrong with NBA media, and I'm going to explain it in this video. I'm not going to cover the Stephen A. Smith, LeBron, Bronny thing because that's been talked about enough, and that happened basically 5 days ago as I'm making this video, but I want to focus on why Shaq's comments frustrated me as a fan and frustrated me as a NBA content creator. Short intro today. If you're new here, welcome in. If you know me, welcome back. Thank you to everyone who's liked, commented, subscribed, and feel free to support me on Patreon. Now let's get back into this video. Now, the overarching title of this clip is that Shaq is not impressed by the Detroit Pistons. We're also going to talk about the video above as well because it factors into this. But again, you see how all of this happened within like a 12-hour span. Now, I know that he recorded the podcast at an earlier time. It got edited, it got whatever. So I don't know if this was, it feels not likely that this was podcast on the same day that the Pistons played, but you can see here it says Shaq isn't impressed by the Detroit Pistons. That's fine. At face value, that's fine. You don't have to be impressed by the Detroit Pistons. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion, okay? But let's get to the actual video for a second.
When I hear people say, oh, the NBA is boring, I go, you're watching the same teams. Because if you put on the Detroit Pistons right now.
Oh, stop it. They're boring too.
Now, I totally understand if you're like, the Pistons are not championship contenders, and Pistons fans will be the first to tell you that as well, you know? The Pistons started getting good. They had the win streak, and then, pardon the interruption, said, should the Pistons be looked at as contenders? And while, you know, that stuff is to get attention, pardon the interruption, handled it very well, and we were all like, as Pistons fans, like, okay, that conversation went well, right? Calling the Pistons boring this year is absolutely just wild to me, personally. In the last 15 games, as I make this video, the Detroit Pistons have the #1 defensive rating in the league. All right, I know. Okay, no, all right. I can do a more basic stat. I promise. I know. All right, how about this one? A simpler stat. The Detroit Pistons are second in the league in fast break points per game. Fast break points per game? How is that boring? See, I can take the whole championship contender ring chase. I get that. Boring? Boring is nuts, okay? And as of March 3rd, they were leading the league in dunks per game. All right? I just gave you fast break points and dunks. If that's not exciting, I do not know what is. And they're one of the best defenses in the league. Okay? Let's continue the video.
Oh, stop it. They're boring too.
No.
Bro, 4 games under 500.
They've won.
All right. So at the making of this video, this is important. Shaq thinks the Detroit Pistons are 4 games under 500. I'm going to repeat that. Shaq thinks that the Detroit Pistons are somehow 4 games under 500. The Detroit Pistons are 8 games over 500. And at the time of the podcast, it was 7 games over 500. So Shaq was off on this team by about 11 wins. That's what? Keep in mind, Shaq just signed a contract for $15 million a year. I think the real reason that a lot of NBA fans are so frustrated is that we're not asking for much. If you're getting paid that much money, I would at least, you know, what teams are over or under 500. That you could just look up. And the thing is that you kept it in the podcast. You can edit that out. This means that Shaq said the Pistons were 4 games under 500. They kept it in the podcast. It went through editing. It went through, I hope, proofing and whatnot. And they kept it in. Okay.
7 in a row.
Whoopee freaking do.
Okay. So it's not even, it's the double down, I think, honestly, here, where like Lefko is just like, bro, what? Have you not been to, like, it's the bare minimum to, I think, be aware of a team that you're talking about on your own podcast, so that you can do at your own pace. You don't have to, you can research these things. And again, this is not hard research. It took me 2 minutes. The bar is so low and people still do not clear it.
And I don't think they're 4 games under 500.
All right, what are they?
And Lefko here is just like, bro, what? Like, I think Lefko is genuinely surprised about how much Shaq does not. I'm a Pistons fan, but I think I can say that it's one of the best stories in the NBA this season, and nobody would have a problem with that. A team that won so few games last season, a team that won 14 games last season, is knocking on the door for the 4th seed in the playoffs in one season turnaround. We got a new head coach. We got Malik Beasley. We got Tobias Harris back. We're a team that likes each other. We're a team that's fun. We're a team that's chippy. We have Isaiah Stewart, like, in the middle of just talking smack all the time. For Shaq to not be aware or cognizant of one of the best stories in the NBA is really sad.
I'm gonna look it up right now, and if you're right, I'm gonna be pissed. There's 6 games over 500.
So Lefko, like me, just did a quick Google to be like, yeah, there's 6 games over 500. T-Pain's there also, by the way. I like T-Pain a lot, so he's not really involved in this video. From my perspective, I'm not really gonna be like, T-Pain should know ball. No, I'm not gonna do that. But watch what Shaq does here.
We've won 7 in a row. Cade Cunningham is balling.
You want to brag about a team that's 32 and 26?
Oh,
See, and like, this is what frustrates me, is that Shaq was wrong on 2 occasions and then just like goes and dismisses this. And it's just like, you know how Shaq always brings up the ring thing with Charles Barkley? The thing about Shaq is that there are a couple of former NBA players where if they just left this TV thing alone, we would talk about their legacies in a way different way, because now I don't see Shaq as like the dominant force, one of the most fun personalities the NBA has ever seen. I continue to see Shaq as just like a cantankerous hater of the game today. And that's really frustrating it's really frustrating when you have people that hate on the game all the time be attached to some of these great national TV weekend matchups. And it's not just inside the NBA. It's NBA Countdown at ESPN. They do that too. I mean, Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins are known. Well, Stephen A. Smith way more than Kendrick Perkins, I think, in terms of just like hating on the product that they are broadcasting. It's really frustrating because it comes attached to what we want to watch. If you want to watch Cavaliers and Bucks on ESPN, then that comes with the territory, right? The show comes with it, you know? I think that's the most frustrating part about it. It's frustrating to see like such a refreshing court experience, a refreshing game, and then be like taken out of it, and then have people be like, here's why what you just witnessed is actually like pathetic and sad and all that. So it's really just disorienting as a watcher often. And I don't like that Shaq has no reason to do this. And I know a lot of Pistons fans were like, oh, he's still mad about 2004. I don't think that that's a driving force here. I think that Shaq is just more so just wanting to talk about the big market teams rather than the Pistons a lot. I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that I know that Shaq is the type of person that'd be petty and like hold that kind of grudge for 2 decades, but I don't think that that's what's happening 100% here. Maybe that's a part of it, but I don't think that that's like what's driving this. I think Shaq is trying to use like the common buzzwords we've seen for sports coverage that you can use to get away with, basically, if you're not really knowledgeable about the topic. You can always bring like, if you've not really been like prepped on a team, you could always say, well, they're not contenders. They're not the 3 teams that we've been covering all season, or oh, this player could be so good if they weren't hurt all the time. Like, those are like simple, I'm gonna call it cookie cutter coverage, honestly. And we're all guilty of this in sports media because it's an easy, so sometimes it's an easy way out, being like, okay, I don't know about this team. Let me use like the cliche coverage terms and shift the goalposts to whatever I'm talking about. Like, people use it all the time. It's the people that use it the most when it makes sense the least. I think that's when it gets the most frustrating.
You see how he moved the goalposts?
Yeah, stop it.
They were 10 games better than he thought.
That's not success.
The thing, like, that's not success is kind of crazy, again, because last year, to us, and I've seen that a lot of Pistons, like, you know, the Pistons have done we've had a great season, and there have been people that have tweeted, like, oh, I can't wait to see them fail in the playoffs, and then a lot of us Pistons fans are like, dude, us making the playoffs is an achievement in and of itself, especially if you've seen Pistons games the last 4 years and plus, right? The Pistons have not won a playoff game since Obama was in office, I think. I think it's one of the biggest success stories of the season. A team that turned it around and was able to have this much fun this season. And it's not always about being like winning a championship, bro. That's the most annoying thing, where it's like, hey, and the thing is that Shaq has no reason like to be like this, honestly, in my opinion. Like, Shaq, you're the one that has the 4 championship rings, bro. We get it. We get it, dude. Not everyone's gonna do that.
To be 70-4.
40-20. We talked about it.
So we can only talk about 3 teams?
Bro,
And I think that Lefko's, again, bringing up great points, because, again, these are the guys that are being paid to cover the league. Not just 3 or 4 teams, to cover the league. And I've always said the NBA has a national TV problem, but even if the teams are on national TV, it's weird that, like, it just, sometimes games just get dismissed or whatnot, and it's really frustrating, especially as a fan of teams that don't get that many national TV games. Like, the Pistons this year, I think, have only been on ESPN once, and I'm also really worried about, like, if the Pistons get the Knicks, those games are going to be on NBA TNT and ESPN. The Pistons get the Pacers, those games, some of those games will be on ESPN and TNT. I have a feeling that Pistons Pacers, you know how the ESPN, you know how all these like series, they send a team that's like the NBA TV series for each like division. As good as the Pistons Pacers rivalry is, I have a feeling that like they're gonna send that to NBA TV. It's a weird feeling I have, but I think that would be the case, which would suck because that's one of the most fun, like, Pistons Pacers rivalry is awesome. I digress anyway. But the other flip side is that when the Pistons make the playoffs and they have these national TV games, what are they gonna say? What are they gonna say here? Keep in mind, by the way, NBA on TNT literally got Cade Cunningham, and Shaq, to his face, said, I know what an all-star is. You're definitely an all-star. All right? So which is it, man? Like, that's the thing, man. I want the consistency, at least. I want the consistency, man. Keep in mind that this is a week after when, like, Kenny the Jet Smith or the rest of the panel on Big Inside the NBA was like, what about the Pistons? What about Cade Cunningham for All-Star? And Shaq said, hell no. I shit you not. So Shaq has been inconsistent with his coverage this entire time.
Detroit Pistons ain't winning enough championships.
We're not trying to this year. We're just trying to not be terrible. Like, that's the whole thing, is that it's like the goal coming into here for a lot of Pistons fans. My goal was 30 games. My goal was winning 30 games. Like, not everything in the NBA is about winning championships, bro. And that's really tarnished how we view and enjoy basketball for real. I mean, like it'd be really weird if every NBA fan base, no matter what their standing was like, oh, let's think about our championship. You think the Utah Jazz and Washington Wizards are thinking about an NBA championship right now? No, they have other goals that they want to get to, right? The Pistons had those goals this year, right? Our goal this year was to see if Cade, Ivy, Dern, and Asar could all play together. Those were conversations that we had last year. Like, who would we give the extension to? Is Jalen Dern worth an extension? Those were important things going into the season. We had no idea. The Pistons had so little to work off of because they were so bad, right? And we were so hesitant to be like, can these people play with each other? Like, that's what it was last year, man. The Pistons, compared to last year, and I know it's easy to be like, compared to last year, but seriously, compared to last year, we were having so many different conversations. We were having conversations about if Cade Cunningham was a number one option or not. That got brought up between Pistons fans, but Shaq's not going to know about that because we talk about NBA teams winning championships a lot, but we never talk about all the important decisions that lead to teams getting there. Like, these teams don't just show up and be good. There are processes that help that. Like, example, the Denver Nuggets a while back had to choose between Nikola Jokic and Nurkic. That was a decision that had to be made. The Nuggets got Nurkic out of there, and they got to a championship, right? But we don't talk about that because we're so tunnel vision focused on the most simplest way to describe the sport and not all the intricate moves and happenings that lead up to it, right? And it's disappointing.
Stop it.
Well, no, but you want to know what the odds are if they did?
All right, and then we have a DraftKings. I'm sorry, guys, my fault. So now it's the same day, mind you. It's the same day, and the Pistons just beat the Wizards. And Inside the NBA is posting the highlights, and after that, they asked Shaq about this stuff. So you gotta listen.
It's about Cade Cunningham. Great player now at this stage. He plays at his own pace. Anybody that can consistently play at their own pace and put up numbers, it's a great player. I like the way he's playing. I like what Chauncey is doing.
Did you hear that? He says he likes what Chauncey is doing. Shaquille O'Neal thinks that Chauncey Billups is the head coach of the Detroit Pistons. Chauncey Billups has never been the head coach of the Detroit Pistons. Do you see what I'm saying now? Again, $15 million a year. 15 mil, like, Chauncey wasn't even an assistant coach for us, I don't think. He was an assistant coach for the Clippers and then became oh my goodness. It's kind of wild. It gets to a point where even Candace Parker and Vince Carter, and shout out to them for doing this, they call out Shaq for this, and here's how he responds.
People out, push
No, I
people
can't
out.
let this go.
Put
Like who? Who's doing it? You said Chauncey?
Chauncey's the coach, right?
Okay.
Portland. No.
Bro, Shaq does not know. He does not know who the Detroit Pistons coach was, but here he was on a podcast. So let's recap. Shaq thought the Detroit Pistons were 4 games under 500. Wrong about that. Shaq does not know who the head coach of the Detroit Pistons is, and it's also, in fact, it's a guy that was never the head coach for the Pistons ever. What are we doing here?
JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah, Bickerstaff, that's what I meant. Hey, you know, first of all, I don't watch Detroit. How about that, boo-boo?
See, and now he's also admitting that he doesn't watch the Detroit Pistons. So now we have a guy that on the podcast said that the Detroit Pistons are boring, even though he doesn't watch them. He told Cade Cunningham to his face that he's an all-star, while also saying that he doesn't watch the Pistons. $15 million a year. I think that was one of the hardest watches in terms of sports analysis in recent memory. Like, it's kind of wild. Like, and my thing is that this all happened in like a 24-hour period. It's baffling stuff, truly.
I don't watch him, so
let that go.
I messed up.
I like
Okay.
what Chauncey's doing.
I made a mistake.
For the trailblazer.
What you freaking do? I made a mistake.
But I mean this sincerely. I think you would enjoy watching the Detroit Pistons.
I don't really get
They
to watch
play
them.
hard.
No,
Cade is phenomenal. Jalen Duren's
Love
your
Cade,
kind of big.
Love Cade. I love Isaiah Stewart. I will be interested.
All in all, this was just a weird day of NBA coverage. And I know that I don't want to keep talking about this, but this felt like something that I could not ignore. Because if this is how our analysts of the game promote and talk about one of the best stories in the NBA, then the way that we cover these teams is fundamentally flawed from the top. And I'm gonna say this: it's not all NBA media. It's basically just the people that have the biggest platforms. Whenever I watch NFL Live or like how ESPN NFL coverage, whenever I watch that, I'm just like, wow, the NBA could use some of that, you know. And there are a lot of people in the NBA media that cover, you know, there's King of the Four Quarters, Kenny, there's Rusty Buckets, there's Nikias Duncan and Steve Jones, you know, when the dunker spot, you know, there's Young Man in the Three. There are so many other great basketball outlets that do coverage, like do daily coverage really well. And it just is so sad. It's so saddening to like turn on to like your favorite national TV game or a matchup that you've been looking forward to, and you have these guys bashing the product, admitting they don't watch teams, but they still have to talk about them. It's like woefully unprepared for this stuff. And the bar is not high. We are not asking for you to break down all the intricacies of the Detroit Pistons offense on national TV. We're asking for you to simply know their record, know who the coach is. Huh? Like, the bar is so low. And the thing is that last year, when Inside the NBA got saved, like, and people were like, I was on board with that, being like, yeah, Inside the NBA, I mean, they're not the best basketball coverage, but at least they're funny. But then I feel like that the quality of whatever they do has cratered in a weird way. It's like, what's going on over there? So yeah, so Shaq had a rough 24 hours, and I felt like I needed to just talk about this because it just made me, I don't know, it was just wild. Anyway, I know that this video is not like on the production quality level that I usually do, but I just felt like I could not ignore this. Anyway, thank you guys so much to my Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much for everyone for liking, subscribing, and commenting. I will see you guys next time. I'm working on other videos, and I hope that I won't have to like talk about something like this in the future. Love you guys. Bye.